Okay, if y'all can, let me know if this is working. We just had a small technical issue. Am I there? Yep, okay, we're live. Okay, good evening, everyone. We made it. Friday's here. The weekend. How is everyone? All right, Peachy, I see you're here. Animal Man, hello. Alex Vance, hi. I know some of y'all's been waiting around for a little while we got set up. Zizo, hey, good to see you again. This has been a very, very busy week. I am exhausted, so. But hey, tomorrow's my day off, so yay! How have you all been this weekend? Doing all right? So yeah. Oh, what? Oh, yeah, you do. I've been getting a lot of questions about potential physical magical circles and stuff like that. So I have been testing the Dragon's Eye seal, and well, I knew it would work if you could draw it. But I don't know. You all know I can't draw stick figures. So I tested this concept back here where we actually stuck it on a wall hanging. And it got here this week. So I was testing that. And I used it both as a circle and as a gate. And it performed absolutely astounding. And I couldn't be happier with the quality that it came out. I was expecting something a little cheaply made because, well, it's not that bad priced. So, but the quality's outstanding. I'm definitely happy about it. So a lot of the magic circles and stuff that I've learned through different path workings, I'm actually now looking at making them available to everybody via the same method here, which you can go to workingdragonmystic.com. You can click the merch and the wall hangings there. This massive one behind me, that's actually the middle-sized one. There's actually one bigger than that. Part of me wishes I'd got the bigger one just to see how freaking big that is. But there is a smaller one, and I am wanting to get that one to see how much smaller. But this thing's like over 4 foot on the outer ring, so it's pretty good size. Easy for me to work in, and I'm a big old feller, so that is a massive little thing. But yes, since I was working with it and testing with it, I figured I'd leave it up as a background for today. Because, well, it really looks good. That and, well, I was lazy. I didn't want to take it down. I had enough to do. I had to run out to town, see the eye doctor, get stuck in traffic. Ugh. So, but it looks good back there, so that paid off. So, but no, on top of that, we've also been filming the Dragon Magic 102 course. We're making a lot of progress on that, getting that path working done up, finalized. We ran into a few stumbling blocks this week with the filming, but nothing that we couldn't overcome, and we should be back on schedule next week, no problems. So we just keep plugging along there. And let's see. It's been one of those interesting weeks where you get a lot of questions, and a lot of emails. Salutations, eh? TC, good to see you. So, all right. Let's see. Oh, and I don't remember if I mentioned it last week, but the artwork for the Ruler of the Spirit Dragons was finished. So that's actually up on the store. If anyone's interested in that, or just collecting the 9 rulers art. Which that turned out really great. I think that might be my favorite one so far. I'm not lying. And like I said, I'm exhausted. So if I seem a little out of it tonight, I do apologize. Bear with me. At least the internet's working. So, hey, one step at a time, right? And for those who have been asking about an Azazel video, not only is it on the list, it's actually one of the next ones we're going to start filming. Now, I do film ahead, so it's not coming out next week. But it's already being set up and getting ready to film. So it's not just on the list, it's actually going into filming. So for all the people that's been wanting that video, that one will be coming soon. Because I found out between the classes and everything, I kind of have to film ahead just in case something goes wrong. So, but we do have a lot of good videos coming before that too. In fact, Tuesday is the hailing ritual you all have been asking me to detail. So that one's actually coming out Tuesday finally. See, I told you I'd get to it. Actually, Peachy, that's just not nice. I have had a student so excited that it did interfere with certain things. Internet, I can't say specifically, but their excitement and emotional energy was, and they had tinkered in the occult some before. So that excitement fed into their already slightly built up energy, and it was screwing with their cell phone and other things. In fact, I actually got one student right now, and she's doing very well and excelling in her craft. And yeah, basically anytime she's on the computer, her computer starts messing up. But she's not new to the craft. Now, I'm trying to think if I had someone fresh, brand new. I don't think I've had anybody fresh and brand new that's screwed with an internet or electronic device, because the more you work with Magick, the more your energy body builds up. So it tends to be something that comes along later. But just knowing how energy functions, like let's say during puberty, that's got to be completely possible. Completely. Well, thank you, A. I try to do my best. I really do. And I can't obviously teach everyone who wants me to teach them one-on-one. So that's one reason I do have the online school, and I'm trying to get all my classes I offer filmed and up on that. And I know that's a long-term goal. And if I wish I had a team that I could get it all filmed for y'all quickly. But that's another reason I also share as much information as I possibly can on YouTube, because yeah, I'm a little limited in what I can do on YouTube, but there's still a lot of information I can give away and share to everyone and get them started. And also the live streams, because you can ask questions and I can do my best to answer them. So I do better if I can interact with the individual. So hopefully you're learning something from the channel. And the small, like, streamed classes that we were talking about, those are still in planning. We've just ran into a few technical difficulties. And once we figure those out, those will be available too. I think I was going to call them workshops or something. So I'm trying. I am trying. This Dragon Magic 102, it's really eating my time up. Yeah, computers do not like me. Clearly, I chose a bizarre line of work or hobby, whatever you want to call what I do, because it's so technologically dependent and technology hates me. So it's the struggle's real, but it's been fun. And I've learned a lot about computers starting this. But I'm still pretty much a caveman in a digital world. Well, I appreciate it, Peachy. So. You know what? They haven't, and that's honestly something I've never even considered asking. And I get a lot of flack for this because I'm like the only magician I know of who I think Stonehenge is fascinating. I think it's a beautiful sight. But my curiosity for it just doesn't seem to match up with everyone else's. And I know that's something I really should look into more. I really should. But I get distracted by other things. And you're right, it is an intriguing concept. Welcome, Namar. Good to see you. Well, my day was good. It was very busy. Like I said, I had to run, well, just to the eye doctor, but that took like 3 hours. But overall, it was a pretty good day. I was able to get some stuff done. I have actually heard of that concept, and I have tinkered around and looked at the different energy patterns and whatnot. The energy patterns and the way they flow around the earth seem a little bit more complicated than 7 chakras of the world. But then again, it would really depend on how someone's measuring it. So I can't say one way or the other whether it's functional, but I have heard the concept. And I mean, when you look at energy maps or whatnot and just using it as a concept to simplify something more complicated, it would make plenty of sense. It really would. And there's so much energy running through that area that if you were to place a chakra somewhere or call somewhere a chakra, I would definitely see that area being one easily. Random question. Well, stacking protections is not necessarily a bad idea. I mean, I layer my wards and my shields all the time. Now, you say ritual services when you talk about, or if you're talking about hiring different people, that's where you might run in. I wouldn't call it side effects per se, but you might run into issues. because if all the people you're working with aren't aware of the other layers, they could actually end up disrupting one another or creating some kind of energetic feedback, which in some cases can actually break down the spell work that's already there. But I mean, if you're doing it yourself, then layering it's fine. I usually recommend most of my advanced students to start layering their shields pretty soon. Well, Halloween's here. Didn't expect to see you. Well, I'm glad you could join us for your lunch. Hopefully, whatever you're having is delicious. Well, when you look at the chakra system, even the human body has more than the 7 mains that most people talk about. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. The globe's got to have more than just 7. Now you've got me wanting to go buy a world map and actually trying to locate and track down ley lines and figure out where those might be, and see if I can line them up with what other people are saying. I think I know what my next Amazon purchase will be. That'd be funny, Peachy. Well, when you're talking about spirits, human spirits are generally the ones that try to do the imposter gig. And the best way to do it is to try and research the spirit you're working with and try to ask enough questions or try to catch the spirit in a lie. Because once you're outside the human spirits, lying really falls away pretty quick, as does the whole imposter gig. But that's really your best bet unless you know somebody who's worked with the spirit and knows the energy. That's one of the reasons, names and sigils are used so much, because they help you really get that resonance more accurate with the spirit you're working with. And that's why there's so many warnings about working with random, just wandering spirits, because you have no idea who's wandering in. Yeah, technically speaking, everything that's living and has an energy body would have a chakra concept to it. Now, one thing I will say about chakras is you're seeing more and more the belief that the chakras are just an energetic map and not a literal concept. So I don't know where I personally stand on that, but if that's the case, essentially everything that has energy body has them. Yeah, hey, a lot of people are worried about that. When I first started working, that was a huge thing of mine. I'd be lying if I said otherwise. And after all these years, I've still yet to have an entity lie to me. I've had plenty of human spirits do it, but nothing other than a human spirit. That said, I do always proceed with caution. I treat them like I would humans. I don't just trust you. I go in, I have respect, I treat them as an equal, but they have to maintain that respect and trust. And I do ask questions. I don't just take what they say as gospel. I won't do it with a church. I won't do it with an entity. Yeah, Norma, I have. That's actually one of the things I was talking about, because the concept is of removing the chakras. If you do that, Um, I don't know if all practices use the same concept, but generally speaking, the way it's been explained to me when people do it is by removing the chakras, because most people do view them as a possible just energy map and not literal. Instead of having your energetic body separated into these different spots, when you remove them, your whole energy body comes together and unites into a singular. And the ritual itself is actually integrating that with your conscious and subconscious mind, therefore giving you far greater control over your energy body. Does it work? Don't know. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The ritual sounds very interesting. I've talked to a few people who's done it. They would swear by it. I know one person who's done it. He don't really feel much different. But myself, I've not particularly done the ritual. But the concept and everything, it's a fascinating topic and area of research. And I'd be lying if I said I hadn't considered trying it. It's just not one I've gotten around to. But you are seeing more and more of it coming along and building up. So, and the people doing it are getting really great results. So it is something that I think attention should be paid to. Oh, hey, yes, they do. They come along a lot. Some of my Dragon Magic students have made plenty of comments of them poking their heads into the screen, making noises, running back and forth across in the background. I think my favorite one is one I actually saw one of the dragons, like right here in the corner of the top screen. They saw his head poke around. I'm not sure how he would have done it. I guess he would have made it smaller, but I never saw it during the stream, but there's been plenty of people seeing them. And they do hang out in the office while I'm doing them usually. And quite often trying to distract me. Because they're just nice like that. I have heard some pretty good things about it. I know a lot of people that's they were suffering from a lot of energetic blockages. They were suffering from a lot of different conflicts in their life. And when they did the chakra removal, it brought a lot of clarity and it brought a lot of resolution to things that they had been working on, trying to overcome, make sense of. And because of that, their personal life, their business life, and even their magical life, it's like it opened completely new doorways or removed obstacles for them. But again, y'all know I'm kind of a data junkie, and the data is just not big enough that I want to jump on a train and recommend it just yet, especially if I ain't done it myself. I mean, y'all know me. I don't recommend it unless I know it works or I've used it. That's why if you go to the site right now, this is listed as a wall hanging, not a magic circle, because until I tested it, I wasn't listing it as that. I got to go back in there and change it now. I mean, I've worked with the Dragon's Eye Seal for a very long time, but when you can't draw, it's kind of hard to draw it and use it as a circle. So now I can test it. Now I've had it. Now I can, take that next step. But yeah, I've heard some really great results from it. And that's one of the reasons I'm intrigued by it. In fact, I've been asking entities about the concept, and they kind of agree with the concept. But one of the things I'm going to do when I start my Qliphothic path working again this fall, each of the Qliphothic rulers that I'm working with, I'm going to talk to them about chakras and chakra removal as well, and kind of get their viewpoint on it. Because I think that would be an interesting question while I'm working with them to try and get a viewpoint on. Yeah, you do have to open your arcane site to see them. If you didn't open your arcane site to see the dragons, I think my YouTube channel would go just viral instantly. And well, I'm pretty sure the government might even want to talk to me at that point. But no, I don't even know what videos people say for sure they've seen them in. So next time someone mentions it, I'll ask them what episode if they remember, so I can point you guys to it. See, Peachy's one of the ones, she sees them tormenting me all the time. And yes, the twins are always in this office. I have tried to get them out of the office during streams. They ain't having. He is actually very knowledgeable about it. He is one of the entities I've discussed it with already. Because yeah, he's one of the entities that during my time working with him all those years ago, me and him built up a pretty good friendship. So I do trust him, his advice, and his knowledge. So he was definitely one I talked to. So yeah, Azazel's very knowledgeable. And he goes back and forth between, sometimes he'll explain things in a way that it's so simple you can't believe you missed it. And then other times he'll explain it in such a way you don't know what he's saying and you're asleep. And then at 4 a.m. in the morning, you wake wide up and you're like, wait, I get it now. And you're kind of wishing he'd have just said it simpler. But that's his methods. C'est la vie. I can't complain. He's been a good teacher. So his methods must work, right? And if they work and they get the results, that's the backbone of my practice. No, these are great questions tonight, people. These are. And Anubis, welcome, or Legion. Yeah, that's one thing I have noticed when I edit videos, not the live streams because they don't really get edited, but the other videos, I definitely hear them tinkering with the cameras and crap. It's slightly annoying. Ego snack? What ego snack? That would actually be a fair question, honestly. It really would. I don't know what the long-term effects would be. I know that generally speaking, they regenerate on their own. It just takes the energy body time to recuperate. So that is a fair question because, I mean, if they're a literal thing, then one would think if you remove them, then they could regenerate just the same. But then again, if the energy body does unify the way people suggest, then the energy body itself would grow together as a singular, and therefore they wouldn't regenerate. So that can go so many different directions. So yeah, that would be a really good question. And actually, I'll add that to my list of questions that I ask the Clefothic rulers now that you talk about it. Because that's a really great one. Because that's a topic people don't like to talk about. Is what happens when you're on the other planes and you get energetically attacked and your energy body gets a chunk taken out of it. I mean, let's be honest, it's pretty freaking rare, but it can happen. And usually it's worst case scenario, you feel like crap for a month or something until your energy body regenerates. And a month is on the long end. Usually it's a couple days to a week. That's why most magicians don't consider it a danger. It's just, I mean, most of my friends do stuff dumb enough that they get hurt and they're out for more than a week quite regularly. And that's physical, normal stuff like football and soccer and falling down of tree stands, which to this day I haven't met one that fell out of a tree stand that I haven't laughed at. I know that might be mean of me. But, hey, you climbed up there. So, yeah, it really is on par with basic everyday stuff. Well, when your astrals travel, that what people refer to as that silver string, that is more or less an energetic connection to your physical vessel. I'll be honest, I've never heard it referred to as anything other than silver string or astral tether. But part of me just, it's like those names are so simple and so generic. You would think somebody somewhere has this really big, complicated name for it. But so far, if there is a complicated name for it, I've never heard it. So, yeah, I always just use the silver string or astral tether words for it. I know a lot of people worry about it getting cut or something. And in my research, that you can't cut that thing. In fact, in soul travel, it won't be there. It will not be there. What banishing ritual do I use? Mostly, if I use a banishing ritual, I use the Dragon's Flame ritual because it can be used as an opening ritual or a closing ritual. And the way it's set up, it does a cleansing, a banishing, and an empowering at the same time. So that's one reason I'd utilize that and leverage it. But a lot of times with most of the entities I work with, they're welcome in my home anytime. So once that relationship and friendship's there and I trust them, I don't even bother with a banishing. Now, a new entity that I don't know, that's when I use the banishing just to make sure everything's cleared until I get that trust. I mean, just like a guest, I'm not going to give them free run in my home until I know them. Well, that would be a term you could use for it. Silver line of belonging. Yeah, the astral body is an energetic portion of the soul where soul travel literally gathers all your essence and you completely step out. And when you're wandering the planes in soul travel, you can go further than with astral travel, and you can experience the planes as tangible and as real as if they were the physical world. It's a trippy experience, but it's a little harder to maintain your focus and do. Now, when I say you step out in your entirety, your body still functions. It still does what it does because it's a machine. It runs on its own. But your consciousness, your energy, and everything goes elsewhere. Well, I would have to say the friends and allies I've made, they look after me. I do believe so. Yeah. And I mean, if you look, I talk about cleansing and banishing and stuff on my channel. And that's one reason I did put the Dragon's Flame ritual up there. It's a great ritual for banishing if you need it. I'm not saying banishing shouldn't be done. By no means. It should be done, especially for beginners. But yeah, most of the time, the bulk of the entities I work with are entities I know. But I do. I just use the Dragon's Flame ritual to close out and clear everything when I'm done. Peachy, that would depend on how you determine the word attacked, because technically speaking, the universe is pounding us all at all times because we need some form of stressor and aggression to grow. I mean, if we were just in utopia, no one would ever grow. We just get complacent. We just stay there. You got to have bad times to enjoy the good times kind of concept. So in that respect, yeah. Now, do you mean is there like a magician who's just got it out for you, gunning for you, just pounding you, or an entity? Entity wise, that would be very, very rare unless you did something very, very stupid. You would have literally had to go to them to piss them off. Magicians, that would be rare, and if it did happen, that magician probably has no life. If they're that bored, which is kind of sad. But given human nature, yeah, I'd say that's possible. That is very possible. No, no. If you die in soul travel, basically you just reappear in your body. I mean, it's tangible. It hurts. You can feel it. But basically, your focus breaks, your concentration breaks, and your essence just rematerializes in your body. One person actually used the term "you respawn," and I laughed because, as silly as it is to use video game terminology, it's not a bad viewpoint because you just cease being where you are and, well, remanifest in your body. Granted, the memory and any discomforts or pain that comes with you, but that's about it. But in my research, I have not seen anyone that has actually died from soul travel. And I've known people who have fallen into lava, been burned alive. I mean, horrible, horrible accidents in the planes, and it didn't manage to kill them. So, yeah, I do work with my ancestors. I'm a big believer in whether your ancestors did good things or screwed up, regardless of how you view it. Everything that came before you built the foundation of where we are now, good and bad, both the successes, the failures, the mistakes, all that. And because of that, you should be thankful for who helped you get to where you are to some extent. Now, I'm not saying we should raise up, like if you got a mass murderer in your family, I'm not saying you should raise them up and praise them. So I do focus on the ones that were more honorable, but at the same time, even the ones that screwed up do have some part to play in how we got here. And yeah, ancestors are a part of my practice. I really dove in and got to working with them deeply when I started with my Norse path working and all that. That's when I went from just working with like a handful of ancestors that I knew of and had researched to really opening up to a much broader view of my ancestral lineage. And that's also where I learned that ancestors is more than a genetic line, because like one of my mentors, him, when I call my ancestors, he will show up because he viewed me as his son. And that didn't bother me. That made sense to me logically, that my brain was able to process that. But when his ancestors started coming to me as ancestors, that was the curveball for me. And it took me some time to process and realize that ancestors can actually be that adopted family. And it can go pretty far back, which is really cool. Hey, that's not a bad use of it. It's really not. I wish I could say I've poked around for other civilizations, but I've spent my time in the plains. I have not traveled space. Probably should, but you got to pick your research. You ain't got enough time to do it all, unfortunately. So, but no, I mean, soul travel is a lot of fun when you get into it. It really is. And I know people's asked when my soul travel class would be available, and I'm wanting to get the evocation class out, and then I'll probably start outlining the soul travel because, or well, it's going to be journey work. It's not just going to be soul travel because it's going to build you up through all the different styles of journey work. But I don't know. That may be one of my favorite practices because I love getting out and doing things and exploring and learning. So, no, great questions. Great questions. So, uh, I spent obviously, I spend a lot of my time working with the dragons. So I spend a lot of time in the dragon realm. I do spend a lot of time in the Norse realms, and I spend time in different of the infernal realms, at least depending on the entities that I'm usually working with, like Azazel. But I do try to wander around and spend time in other random places as best I can. But at this point, the number of entities that I've befriended is getting so big, I'm running out of time to visit everybody. The infernal realms, they honestly differ drastically from place to place. Um, so I have seen what looks very urban. I've seen what looks like forest. I've seen what looks like kind of just sandstone flatlands and mountains. You will see kind of a theme of it's only like half of it, but there does seem to be a theme of fire and shadow a bit in most places. It's not a guarantee, but it really does depend on where you're at and who you're working with. But yeah, you do kind of get that theme of those warm, fiery colors with usually shadows and darkness kind of stuff. The Dragon Realms. The Dragon Realms are very interesting because when most people step into the Dragon Realms, they arrive at what the dragons usually call the central hub. And this is where any entity that works with dragons, this is the where you gather in the draconic realms. And what you will usually see is a large I almost want to call it like a metropolis kind of thing with kind of a trading vendor common area where everyone can gather, talk, discuss, all that crap around the base. And then at the center, you got like a structure that comes up. And this is where more and more your dragons start to flock and fewer actually come here. And that base goes into even a finer, almost spire like area. And almost every level as you is dedicated to one of the elements. So this is where very elemental specific areas are. But it can be visited by any friend or ally of the dragons. Now, that said, this large center area, once you go further and further out from it, the draconic realms become vastly more primal. The trees, everything starts getting larger, bigger, denser. And this is actually where the dragons, by and large, make their home. And this is where they, go to make their layers and spend their free time away from everyone else. And the environments are very, very mixed, but I mean, they're not mixed in the traditional way we would think of here on Earth. So you may find fire and ice in the same spot. You may find fire and water. You may find fire and trees. I can actually remember one area. It was this really cool lake, and it was lava, and there were trees growing out of it, wooden trees that weren't burning. To the dragons, that made sense. To me, that's some stuff I ain't never seen before. But so the elements in their realm really do mix together to create a form of nature that, it's not something we've seen, and the elements don't react in a way that we would predict. But to the dragons, it makes perfect sense. And again, the further out from that central hub you get, expect things to get bigger. So I'm not even sure I've gone as far out into the wilds of that area as you can. In fact, I'm pretty certain I haven't. But like to, if possible, attempt to try and map it out somewhat. I'm hoping to do a video on it at some point to detail it a little better. I actually got a question, was it this week or last week? Someone asking about it, because apparently I've not mentioned the Dragon Realms in any of my videos yet, which seemed to have surprised me. But I might not have. I know I haven't done a specific video on it. And I know it wasn't in the 101 class because the Dragons specifically wanted it held off until 102. But I don't know, it just seems odd I hadn't brought it up at all. But it's a really cool place. And when you visit there, you will see so many strange entities because the dragons do work with so many different entities and allies. So that central hub is like a multiversal meeting ground in some ways. So, yeah. All right. So hopefully wait, hold on, what's that question? I've been to some of the inner rings of some hells. There's more than one hell. That's what you got to realize. There's a lot of different hells. There is the Christian hell. There's other hells, and those kinds of things. Have I been to Valhalla? Yes, I have actually wandered up, and well, I should say I was invited. I didn't just randomly wander up. That might not be the best attempt to go at that. But I have gotten to go to Valhalla and see that and check out the hall and the feasting, and the fighting, which was pretty freaking cool. Well, that one. You got to understand that biblical lore does paint all these entities with their own brush. In fact, most of what we know as demons were at one point just deities of another culture. And yeah, Lucifer does catch the blame for basically everything in the Bible. That said, angels and demons, both dragons, have no problem working with them. They work with both sides. They're allied with both sides. No biggie. In fact, you start working with these entities enough, you realize angels and demons work together. They're not actually opposing forces, which that really messed with my noodle when I first found it out. But which goes to show, I mean, everyone's got lessons that they grew up with, and you got to get past them. But as far as if what dragons view as a dragon, Lucifer is not. He is whether you view him as an entity or a demon or even a deity, he is not a dragon. That said, he can shapeshift into a draconic form. But just because you can take that form does not make you a dragon. But when you look at draconian traditions, which again is separate from dragon magic, I did a video on that. That energy of those ancient deities, which is where the word draconian comes from, he is definitely one of those, and he does work within that current. Now, when you talk about biblical revelations and him becoming that multi-headed dragon destroying the world, I'm going to have to say that's very unlikely that will happen in the way that Revelations has painted it. Because honestly, how many apocalypses have all of us already lived through? I know in my lifetime I've survived 8 or 9 or more already that I'm aware of. So yeah, he works with them, but a direct connection in the biblical account. In all my workings with Lucifer, which I'll admit have not been many, but I found him to be a very pleasant individual, and he's actually one of the ones in the cliff off I'm looking forward to working with more and getting to know more about him. But no, he, as a literal dragon, he is not, but he can assume that form if he chooses. Oh, Peachy, you just want his dog. Yeah, I mean, the area in which you work does affect the area in which you go. Which, I mean, makes sense. But on the upside, I'm not Christian, so I won't be vacationing there. Cerberus is a pretty cool dog. I'll admit he is. I spent a lot of time working with Hades years ago, and yeah, he's definitely a dog lover. Me and him got along on that much for sure. But when I was actually done working with him, he's the one that sent me to talk to hell for the first time. So I was originally a bit put off because I felt like, what? Why are we stopping? But it took me a while, but I understand why he switched it over. Made sense. I actually find her very pleasant. I'm sure she might creep some people out. Again, and that's where an entity has a personality, and not everyone enjoys the same personality types. But I found her to be relatively calm, collected, intelligent. And I enjoy that type of personality because I can sit down and have a really great conversation with the person. Now, the downside is she is so calm that joking around with her It's really hard to know if you're getting a good reaction or not. But the more I work with her, the more I've been able to get to understand her body language to the point where I do know when she finds something funny, because she is just that kind of calm aspects about her. Now, that said, with that calm can come a temper. And when she's upset, she's pretty freaking cool. Terrifyingly cool, but yeah. Well, actually, if you asked me, I would say the Fae, if you were just to classify a single grouping of entities as dangerous, I would say the Fae might be the most dangerous or treacherous because they are just naturally so mischievous to begin with. Um, and they actually do like causing trouble. And they really do not view things roughly as we do. So what they might consider a practical joke might get someone killed. And yes, they can actually drain energy similar to like you would a succubus or a succubi. Um, but again, that's one of the reasons, but if you follow those general rules of working with the Fae, you can have a really great working relationship with them. And you can shake one off if it tries to attach itself to you as they're using that. Now, unless you willingly bind yourself to it or bond yourself to it, then you're going to have to find a way out of that deal. Because contracts in the Fae realm, ooh, you got to be careful with those. Actually, she's never appeared in a hag-like or ugly situation at all. She's always appeared as a very formal and regal woman. She does seem to have dark skin on one side and light skin on very white and pale skin, or sometimes even a marbling look to it. Not the living and dead that most people described her as, which is interesting. And when I went back and read the edits, I don't know where the modern vision comes from because it never states that in there. Best you can find in there is the color blue, which does not mean she was a corpse on any station either. So I don't really know where we get our modern view of her. But I think I might have upset her because I was so surprised that she was an attractive lady and regal looking that I think my surprise was noted. And I think she was a little disappointed in me because I was expecting the hag. But she didn't hold it against me. What races do I like working with? Oh, uh, I've enjoyed working with the dwarves and the elves. Both of them are fascinating entities to work with. I'm trying to think. I don't spend as much time in the Fey realms as people would think I do, because most of my time there, it's usually the dragons are dragging me over there. Any times I've worked with red caps, I'll admit I didn't like it. I do not enjoy working with them. Gnomes, I do find gnomes amusing. I really do. I enjoy them. Um, they're just they're very practical in what they do. They get the job done, but they're so amusing as they do it. It fascinates me. Centaurs, pretty freaking cool to work with. Just don't upset them because they're quick to punch. And I will say I enjoy pixies over fairies. I know a lot of people say they're the same thing, but according to the ones I've met, there's a difference, and their personalities do seem to differ slightly. And that's mainly because the pixies seem to have a bit more focus than the fairies. The fairies are just like all over the place, and I can't follow their line of logic for nothing. But mostly, I do enjoy working with the dwarves and the elves most. Though I don't like working with them at the same time because they do bicker. Yeah, there is a dragon at my side. Alex, I have heard of that. Most, if not all, unicorns fall into the Fey realms. So I don't know a super lot about unicorns, except they can be really mean sons of bitches. They are not the gentle, pleasant creatures most people know them as, and they make excellent guardians. Um, I know some people say they're unintelligent animals, just like horses. I say bullshit. They are way too intelligent for my liking, because they can be downright mean. In fact, I've not seen one talk, though. I can't shake the feeling that they're not just smart animals. I think they're very much sentient to the point of linguistics. I just can't prove it at this point. Which means I got to get into the Fey realm, spend some time working with them and doing some research on that. But no, I have heard of them, and they do make really good guardians. The trick is getting them to like you. But once you befriend them or they view you as one of the pack or herd, you're pretty solid. I didn't say they're too smart for their own good. In fact, I'd say their intelligence probably serves them pretty well. I have worked with Raziel a few times, not a lot, though. That's actually that's one of the areas I want to improve on. Is I want to work with Raziel and other angels more, but specifically him. And the few times we worked together, I found him to be very serious, very to the point, very focused on work, but a very pleasant individual at the same time. And as we did come closer to finishing up what we were working on, he did appear to start making jokes. So I think when the work's done, he may actually have a sense of humor on him. And that's one of the things that intrigues me about him, because it's unusual to find somebody as serious and focused as that and then them start cracking jokes, which, especially among angels, because one of the reasons I don't work with angels is they can be such sticking nuts. So the fact that there might be an angel that's willing to crack some jokes and stuff out there, that just fascinates me, and I do want to get to know him better. Hey, Sophia, welcome to the stream. I have worked with Stolos a time or two. It has been a really long time, though. I don't know what to tell you, Namir. He was serious when working with me. Maybe he just don't like me. I don't know. Uh, I can say with Stelos I had a good experience, but it's been so I don't even remember what we worked on together. Um, but I do remember, you know, I almost feel bad I can't remember it. But I mean, I can't make deep connections with every entity I work with, unfortunately. Oh, and if y'all hear this jet noise and crap, I apologize. Um, but at least for my part, I enjoyed working with him back then, and I'm hoping if we run across each other or work together again, he feels the same way. I hope. He never did anything to make me think he didn't. So at this point, I have no plans to go working with him again. But well, plans change. Yeah, I mean that's one thing. You got to look at gnosis and personal experience, and when it comes to personalities, this is something a lot of people look. An individual's personality shifts depending on who they're talking to, because you got two personalities coming into contact, and you're going to react to that personality different. So your personality shifts to meet that opposing personality. If you get along with the person, great. That's going to actually go work together well. If one or both of you dislike each other, that's going to not work so well together. And entities are the same way, if not worse, in their complexity. So, the best I can do when it comes to these entities is this is how they treated me. But I always try to encourage people, when you reach out to them, just approach them with respect, approach them with some consideration, and try to get to know them the same way you would anyone else, and build that one-on-one, that personal repertoire with them. That's really the best way to find out if you and that entity are going to be able to work long-term together. That's why some of these entities that I've worked with, it's like, yeah, I worked with them. Yes, we got along, but we really didn't click in a way that I foresaw a friendship being built there, or a long-term working relationship even. And that's what I try to do, is I try to find those entities that, for me, they're friends and allies to the core, and they're entities that I trust. Otherwise, I'm always out there. I'm trying to meet entities and learn more. True. I'm not like shutting the door on all other entities out there, but the ones I have a deeper knowledge are the ones that I've built that friendship with. And I think it's important for people to understand that those personalities can be complex, and you really cannot replace personal experience. You really cannot. Uh, yeah, they can. Your first primary guardian dragon will always tend to be your primary, but it's not uncommon for other dragons to come in that are guardian dragons to help that dragon or to help you. But they will always be a backseat role to that primary. The exception to this is you will find where two dragons or dragons that are twins or something like that will fill the single guardian dragon role, that single primary, which is what happened to me. I got stuck with a pair of twins. And yes, I do use the word correctly, stuck with, because believe me, twin dragons is not as cool as it sounds. They can be quite annoying and hyper. But they are family, and we've come to love them. But it is possible, and there are plenty of smaller little guardian dragons that assist them, and therefore running around the house as well. but they do not replace that primary. That primary will always be in that position and always take the lead in events. Yeah, and you're right. They do. They basically adjust to us. You're right. And many of them will even put on a persona that they know is going to best help you, not the one that you're going to like best, but the one that's going to best help you. So there are entities that I've seen appear to people in a terrifying way because they knew they needed to get this person to face up to certain fears within themselves. So sometimes it's not the pleasant image they put forward, but yeah, they do definitely put on a mask that resembles the best way they can help us or our personality, the easiest way for us to communicate with them. I mean, the list gets infinite on why they may adjust their appearance or personalities to suit the practitioner they're working with. Hey, Russ, going pretty good. Pretty good. Bit exhausted, but doing good. It has been a fun-filled week. Lots of stuff to do. I'm actually considering going and getting a brisket tomorrow, throwing that on the smoker since it's my day off, and just sit outside and watch the smoker fix me a brisket. Life goals, right? Man, a good brisket, slow smoke, that's good stuff. I threw a couple pork shoulders on there a couple weeks ago. So, and I did ribs. It's just like I can do more ribs, but I haven't had a good brisket in a while. Oh, that's a tough question, Anubis. Because it's kind of a give or take. The concept of free will that we humans know and enjoy, most entities absolutely adore it and love it. And most entities seem to actually admire the potential of humans. That said, I also can't think of an entity that I've encountered that think humans have their act together. So if you look at the multiverse on, let's just use the word evolution because we can understand that. Humans do seem to be at the bottom of the totem pole on how far we've come compared to everything else. So they don't view us as weakest as in, that's it, this is what you got, you're done. It's just we haven't got off our butts and done the work to climb up the ladder. But I think by and large, a good chunk of entities out there don't consider humans much of a threat. If we're a threat, the threat's to ourselves, not them. But again, you can only generalize that because most humans wouldn't actually register as magicians that would get their attention to begin with. And you don't know how they view individual magicians and whatnot. That can actually completely change the scenario. But as a race, I don't think we're the biggest concern they have if we've even on the radar. I hope that made sense. Because most races and entities through the multiverse, they don't really look at power in that viewpoint. I mean, humans are actually the only entities I've encountered where we get into the energetic pissing contest, if you will. Yeah. There's a good chunk of reptilian beings out there. They can get aggressive. They don't like people trespassing or bothering them. That's one thing I've learned. Though I will say I'm kind of curious to learn more about them. I do have my bias against them, and the reason I haven't really comes down to alien theorist type stuff. Because if I try to record anything on reptilians in the astral, I'm worried people's going to think I'm a conspiracy theorist, and which I'm not saying reptilian aliens don't exist. I just ain't seen anything to make me do either. You know how that goes. Oh, there is. There is a lot of misunderstandings. But it's also twofold, really. It's not just misunderstandings, it's a lack of information, period. Um, More research is needed on both the draconian magic views and the just dragon magic views. There's definitely more research needed on both sides, which we are seeing a lot of research going into the draconian side. And my hope with me sharing the information on dragon magic more and getting it more available to more people is that they will take what I hand out and they will take it further. Because I don't have the end all be all answers. I've got my research that the dragons have allowed me to pass on, and in fact encouraged me to pass it on, so more people can come in and do research and continue to build upon it. So yeah, we need to kind of dissolve some of those misunderstandings while at the same time learning more information and sharing that information with others. For me, that would be the ultimate payoff, is to see the students and viewers of my channel build upon my work and take it further and then continue to share it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Same with Grays, because it's just one of those things, UFOs is a fascinating field of research and everything, and I've been blessed to go out with a few crews. Anytime I've been out, we never saw anything. Maybe I'm bad luck. I don't know. But I mean, I like the theories, but I've just, again, my brain's too logical at times. It gets in my way. But I will say this, as far as alien life forms, when you consider how vast our universe is, I find it hard to believe we're the only planet supporting life. That's odds that just seems, I don't know, seems harder to buy. So I have to think something's out there. I just don't know what it is. Hey, Mr. So, I mean, just playing the laws of averages, as vast as it is, something's got to be out there. Though I will say this, if there is life out there, which there probably is, I think our planet is the planet when everyone drives by, they roll their windows up and lock the doors and try to get by as quick as possible. But that's just my personal viewpoint. I mean, I wouldn't want to stop here, so I don't know why anyone else would. But different strokes for different folks, right? No, really good questions. Great. Anything else? I think, what's this? Anubis, I'd have to say, yeah, there's been a few times in my life where some of my allies have helped me to avoid potentially fatal circumstances. One was definitely a car crash. But there have been times where, yeah, they have helped me to avoid potentially fatal circumstances, and I'm grateful for it. But and I may not even be aware of all those situations. Yes, if we can get the likes up, it helps the channel out a lot. And also, when the replay publishes tomorrow, because they seem to be getting slower to publish, I don't know why. Apologize about that. But drop a comment, say hi. That also helps the channel out. It tells the algorithm we're actually doing something. Yes, I do have contact with my higher self, God form. What's one of the things you want to do, Anubis? Rust. Yeah, actually, we discussed that when I first got on here. You can actually use that as a magical circle. That's one of the reasons I actually made sure this was on the shop. It's currently listed as a tapestry because I wanted to fully test it before I said anything, and that I've been doing this week. And you can use that dragon's eye seal as a physical circle, and this tapestry behind me works excellent. And we did keep them very affordable. This massive one behind me, I think, is like $38 maybe. I know a lot of people charge what, $300 for magical circles. That's freaking ridiculous. But it's really well made. I was impressed with it, and it works absolutely awesome. But the reason it's actually hung on the wall right now is I was also testing it as using it as a gateway, which also works excellent. And now that we know that the quality is good and everything, there's a lot of other magical circles and stuff that I've been given gnosis through in my different path workings that as we get to that point, I'm actually wanting to make them available to everybody. And this is actually the medium size one. There's three of them, three sizes available. One smaller, and there's actually one larger. And I couldn't imagine this thing being bigger. Good God, that the larger one's got to be massive. So that's just crazy. I may have to buy the smaller one to see how big it is. But I'm 6'2", and I had my boots on when I was using it for the circle, so I didn't try to cut down anything, and I had more than enough room to do my rituals, move around. It was great. Plenty of room in there. What are some of my favorite occult books? Oh, that's actually a good question. I do enjoy Modern Magick, which is a book more on ceremonial magic. I really enjoyed that and the way it was laid out. Because he laid it out in a workbook style and he really paced it in a very good way. and I find the way he explained things pretty well. My 4 go-to recommendations for beginners has always been the Temple of Witchcraft series by Christopher Pencak. And I know that's weird because everybody's like, wait, that's more of a Wiccan religion style setup. And for someone who's not religious like me, that seems weird. But he lays it out in such a way, he gives a great spectrum of information, and he builds upon it from start to finish. So you get to learn the meditation, the trance working in the first one. Then he moves to more outward style magics, the second one. The third one, he moves into shamanic style magics and practices and shadow work. And then the fourth one, he gives a very good, simplified, understandable layout of ceremonial and all the different traditions along the way and the different ways that it's practiced through those traditions. So those 4 books really give a massive amount of information to a beginner, and it's all functional. So I do love those. I do enjoy a lot of Asenath Mason's works, like her Draconian Ritual book. That was one of the first books that I found where it wasn't so much a path working, it wasn't so much trying to walk you through all this. It was literally just teaching you the tools and the foundation of an entire tradition and explaining why it was used, why the symbolism is important. And I found that one fascinating. And since it is laid out that way, it's something that anyone can pick up, utilize, and get that knowledge and try to apply it to their personal practice as well. Oh. Man, it's weird because I don't really go to my bookshelf as often as people think I would. I do like the book Animal Speak when it comes to understanding animal magic and what animals might mean. I enjoy that a lot. So, but yeah, it's really hard for me because I don't go to my bookshelf as much as people would think. If anything, it's I run back here to try and remember how to phrase it when someone asks me a question, and I don't want to try and give an answer beyond what their skill level might be. Now, Demons of Magic, which is a book on evocation by the Gallery of Magic, and the 72 Angels of Magic. I purchased both of those and I worked through them completely for Demons of Magic, and got some work on the Angels. And both of those are good, solid books. They really are. I'm wanting to look into more of the Gallery of Magic's books because they present it in a very practical way, which interests me. And though they're not really what I would consider affordable books, Asenath Mason's Clithothic Meditations book, that's the one I used to do my Clithothic meditation pathworking last year, which I really, really enjoyed. And I also have her follow-up book for invocation and evocation, which is what I will be using for the follow-up pathworking I plan on doing. As to, I haven't done it, so I can't really, say my thought processes on that just yet. But I am finding I love Asenath Mason's works. I'm wanting to look into her books. I have not, or I should say, not that I'm aware of. I've read a lot of books that I don't remember. And since it's not registering, I'm just going to say no. I've read a lot on Hermetics. But no, I can't say for sure I've read that one. I keep getting asked a lot to review my library that I keep here in the office, and I'm considering it. I just think a lot of people's going to be disappointed because it's not as cool as some of them seem to think it might be. We move a lot, so I'm actually trying to cut down on the books I no longer use at all. So I'm trying to slowly cipher those off and donate them to an occult shop or somebody. Or and since we're military, there's a lot of military members that could use the books when they're on deployments and stuff. I laws and societies. One or two in the past, but it just wasn't for me. And for those who do it, some people have great experiences with it. Some people have horrible experiences with it. Me personally, I can't say my work with them enough was for me to really have a dog in that fight. Um, I've always really enjoyed just doing my own thing and my own research. So my foray into being any part of those was very, very small. But I do have friends who work in them, and some of them had great experiences with them. So I generally try to, stay out of that because, like I said, my sample size isn't enough to have a dog in the fight. I will say I enjoyed my time in it. It was really nice to have so many people you could discuss the magic and the processes and the viewpoints and the gnosis about. I loved that concept. At the same time, and this could be a fallacy against me, really, honestly, because they were taking their time. They were moving too slow for my taste. And as you all know, I have a tendency to jump in head first. And sometimes it works out for me, sometimes it doesn't. Um, that was really the biggest thing I had a problem with. It was just too slow for my taste, and we all work at different pacings. So, but I did really enjoy the ability to have colleagues to sit down and talk with, debate with, and share ideals and theories and philosophies. So, which is one reason I love these ramblings because you all come in with your questions, your comments, and that's essentially what we're doing here. And the same thing over in the Discord. We share experiences and comments and stuff like that, which is great. And as long as you can keep it respectful and you can really make a lot of progress there. You really can. That's one reason I tell people focus on the results, because if it's yielding results, there's really nothing to argue about. And the way you get results, if you share it. Yeah, a lot of people do have issues with the initiation process. Um, and that's because it's really become more of a gatekeeping process at this point. And I can understand that. But my personal view is if there's a specific tradition, you should respect that tradition's structure and the way they do it because that's their thing. That's what they're doing as that tradition. But when it comes to solitary practitioner or an independent magician, do your thing, do your research, apply your craft, learn, advance it as best you can. But don't go claiming a title or a tradition if you're not initiated into it. That's kind of part of respect. Like, I've never been initiated into Gardenary and Wicca. I wouldn't dare claim that because you know, I respect their traditions and their rights to do their stuff. But yeah, a lot of people do have issues with those initiations. And to be fair, let's be fair, because on the other side of that is there's a lot of people who they try to get high and mighty on their soapbox. If you're not initiated, then you're not legit. And that does tend to burn people's biscuits pretty heavily. So, yeah, there's two sides on that fence there. That's why I just focus on the basics and the structure and framework of Magick, and encourage people to take that framework and literally find their path and pursue it and research it and seek the results they're looking for. I don't know. I've never tried to get into it. I'll be honest with you. I learned early on I don't play well with others, and I'm probably better as a solitary. I'm great at talking and sharing information and encouraging others to learn. Once we get past that, yeah. So now I find practice and application to be one of the biggest points, because that's really where you're going to get your best knowledge from. So, okay, let's see what time we got here. Almost 9. All right. Any final questions before we get ready to head out of here? Mystic, that's totally a valid statement. That really is. It really is. My research, my path, I'm going to do my thing and follow my passions and my curiosity. And I ain't got time to argue with people who disagree with me. I'll sit down, I'll have a logical discussion, I'll share information and views. But yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, we're going to get ready to wrap up here. I do thank everyone for joining tonight. You all brought some really great questions in here this evening. I appreciate it. Tuesday, we do have the hailing ritual coming out finally. I know you guys are, as Peachy would say, 5,000 years later. But we did actually get the video done. It's going to be coming Tuesday. We discuss it. I detail it. I go in through why I do all the different parts I do, and we even demo it. So yeah, we're finally getting that out to you. I'm sorry it took so long. I am trying to. I'm trying to get to all the requests everyone makes. Some of them I do have to backdoor shelf them because someone asked what my recipe for pork shoulder was. So unless I can work that into a magical video, that one's not going to be coming anytime soon. Because I do try to focus on usable magical information on the channel. But I actually have a way I can do that. So I probably will be sharing that recipe shortly. We just got to work it into a magical video so it's applicable. Oh, no problem, Rust. I enjoy answering the questions. You guys bring great questions in here, and y'all make me think. Like the Stonehenge thing. Like I said, it's not something I'd considered before, but it's a really good thought. And yeah, we will be over in the Discord for a little while. We always tend to gravitate over there if you have further questions. And Sunday, join us for the Magical Coffee Hour. Hopefully, we have the OBS issues fixed. Unfortunately, we're not going to have time to test it. We did find a bunch of settings that's supposed to help everything. With my luck with technology, let's be honest, it's either going to help the problem, or we may not even be able to go live that night. Who knows? But hopefully, we got it all fixed and working, and last week's issues will not be a problem. That's what I'm hoping for. Also, if you are interested in the circle back here, go to workingdragonmystic.com. It's available there, along with all the artwork our artist Sarah has been doing of the Draconic Rulers. And we are trying to add more and more stuff for you all as best we can. And with that, guys, I'm going to hop off here. I'm going to get me another cup of coffee, and I will jump into the Discord to talk to you all for a little bit. Y'all have a wonderful night, and take it easy. Appreciate y'all being here.